Hey, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. So today, just going to do a quick stock market update. Um, so today, looking at the SPY, S&P 500 Spiders ETF, I see it a 1% move on it. So let's go to the 3 month. So it's a very strong bar. I mean, looking at this bar today, this is a very strong bar. So the volume wasn't great, but the price move was pretty good. So looking at that, that was pretty good. So let's look at the Nasdaq. That strong bar on the Nasdaq as well. So we had this thing. The Nasdaq had corrected more than the SPY, a few weeks ago. Had this W form up, and then this is kind of a critical day for it. Just having it pull up like this, you kind of wonder, like it could be setting up for, the Nasdaq to move higher with everything else. So I'm on the 3 month daily chart right now. Let's look at XLP. So XLP, has been one of the stronger ones, and it's just following through. Let's see what happened with the 10-year. 10-year, so 10-year kind of up just slightly today. You still have a trend with the 10-year. It's still moving up in the short to intermediate term. I mean, it's still moving up. It's correcting. It's coming down, but see, it's coming down into the moving averages. The red being the 50. That's a more important one. Let's look at the dollar. What the dollar did today. So the dollar, this seems to be probably helping in the market. Dollar getting the crap kicked out of it, and then today putting a big gap up, and then a big just sell off throughout the day. So if we looked at the minute chart, you can see that today, gapped up into this huge resistance here, and just sold off. So that's kind of a messed up thing. So today I wanted to talk about. Well, I'm looking at one thing. Grayscale Bitcoin Trust. Now, it's sort of a proxy for the Bitcoin, and this is not financial advice, but I do have some of this. Now, what I had done is I had bought some back here. So what I usually do is I'll put these arrows. So back here, I had bought some, basically 4 units, and I had sold 2 units back here, and I'm sitting on 2 units as of this point. And I'm starting to look at this thing and trying to figure out, what's going on here. I mean, trying to draw like little trends. I was thinking about today, like, well, I want to maybe sell it today, the way it's kind of broken down. But then I was like, well, I don't want to sell it because look how it's gotten beaten up. If we looked at a 3-month chart, so let's see, you have to kill this. Let's do changes now, and let's put this to a 3-month chart. You see every time it comes down to the moving average, it kind of comes back up. It looks like it could be getting weaker here, but either way, I was like, well, I'm going to give it a little more time, kind of see what it does. The other one that's interesting right now is silver. I had sold out of my silver some time ago, and I definitely had to take some losses on it. But it's kind of interesting how it's picking up over here today. 3% up, strong day on it. If we look at a weekly for this, this is like a huge consolidation, and this is something that I have to kind of understand is that people do like pre-market trading, after market hours, and all this stuff that's like it's very fast moving and stuff. But this thing had a run. This silver had a run, came up from March of 2020 and railed up, and then it's really consolidated for the most part for like whatever, almost a year. And now it's finally looking like it's sort of picking up again. So that's kind of how things happen. And this is something like if you're trading, you have to kind of figure out, you have to kind of get an idea like what you're doing, what your strategies are. Do you want, if you had a position and this made up one of 10 positions or 20 positions in your portfolio, it's taking up space. And, do you want to hang out and just wait around while it does nothing? That's always one of those key things that you have to figure out. Now, the other thing that I just wanted to discuss was the Tesla. I had actually over here on the blue arrow, I had bought some Tesla. Now, when I bought it, it was a very strong bar that day. It's kind of funny. So this is where you kind of realize, I think I had bought it, yeah, this day here. And so it had a strong bar, and I bought it somewhere in here, and then it kind of sold off and turned into like a high wick on the top. And then today it's kind of reversed and kind of looking actually a lot better today. But I guess, the thing I want to say is, like, I've kind of criticized a lot of these high beta stocks, that they have this, they've been going down a lot. They had this big correction. And then remember how I talked about this W, and how here it couldn't really struggle to get out of the W, but then eventually it did and kind of came up to the other side. And I had not bought here because I really missed it. And now actually we're riding above the 50-day moving average. So this now, I have a position. I'll let it ride a little bit and see what happens. If you go to a weekly chart here, you see it's like, okay, this is probably not a bad place to be. Now, of course, it can always reverse and fall apart. But, in the scheme of things, it's like, if you're down here and you bought during these weeks where it had just come off this, 30-week moving average, you're looking pretty good. And that's kind of what I'm thinking over here. Now, here's the problem, though. So the problem is earnings are due 4/26 and it's 4/21. So they're doing like about 5 days. So that's not my plan. I really don't have a plan of holding through earnings because I just don't know what to expect. I'll do more research on that and everything like that. But, I have no idea what to expect. I mean, I just bought it from the technicals, from the point of view that, hey, look, it started to get some kind of a bid in here. I sort of missed it. I bought it yesterday. Yesterday didn't look good. Today kind of made up for it. Maybe look like I knew what I'm doing when really I don't, blah, 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 etc. It's above the 50. So who knows? Maybe we'll get a run for a little bit. This is kind of a swing trade kind of thing. It's not long-term core position at this point. So I don't really want to hold into earnings that are coming up really probably next week. Yeah, next week is what the estimate is. So, yeah. But I think I want to talk about, the point is I've criticized these stocks. And I said, a lot of these high beta stocks have this W, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, here I am, I put a position on. Well, if I'm criticizing it, why am I putting a position on? Well, because the thing is, like, as I talked about several times, is like, hey, look, there might be a setup. If this thing can break over this W and get to the other side of this 50-day moving average, you definitely have a situation where it makes, a potential good swing trade. So, I basically, have to, if you're trying to make money in the market, you have to kind of put all your biases aside. And so my bias is against Tesla and some of these other high beta stocks. I'm putting them aside. I can see the setup is there, and I can see that the setup is maybe not so great in some cases, but maybe it's okay in others. And if it looks good, I'll take it. So if we look at some of the other high betas, I really want to look at the smaller cap. So like here, yeah, RK Innovation. Now this one had a nice little day today, but this one's not a great place. It didn't make it above the 50, et cetera. Maybe it's just going to consolidate below the 50, but it's not as strong as Tesla for sure, right? Because it didn't make it above the 50. So you have to look at the things relative, not in total percentages, but relative to its averages, the 50, So the point being, this one, as of this point, it hasn't made it back above its 50-day. So, that's very weak. Compare it with Tesla, which is now trading above its 50-day. So which one's stronger? The one above its 50-day, of course, right? So let's see what some of these other high betas are doing. So we have these guys, nothing. Strong bar on Churchill today. Doesn't really mean anything. 7.8% bar. It's in a downtrend. It doesn't really mean it. It could be reversal. Like if you look at that, this is it could be an engulfing, right? Bullish engulfing, because it looks like it's pretty close. The open was pretty close to the close yesterday. If it had gone down and then it would be a bullish engulfing, but it's kind of like splitting hairs. We don't want to split hairs. Strong bar on Carnival. Interesting. So they kind of save that. CMG, Salesforce. Let's see. Disney I was looking at earlier, I was thinking of buying some, and it kind of broke down. So um, good thing I don't have any of that. Funny, these aren't high beta. Here we go. End phase. High beta means the meet Kevin stocks. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Yeah, so here's another one, end phase. Once again, it didn't make it above its 50. So it's really not in a great position. We didn't have a lot of volume on this stuff. And it's great. It's a good, strong bar today. Maybe it will build, and maybe this is a setup. So even though once again, I'm one of these people and I'm like, oh, I'm not buying this kind of high beta crap. It's something that, I may look at, and if it does set up, I am not, certainly not opposed to like making a trade on it. Here you have, not sure, it's sort of symmetrical triangle-y. Sort of the symmetrical triangle is, it will oscillate in the triangle. This is not a great triangle. I mean, where you put the lines will affect it, but normally it's continuation. So it might be continuation from the downtrend or the uptrend, hard to say. But I think if you know that you have resistance here, right in that area. I mean, a little bit here too, but if this was able to put together a week of some strong gains and start pressing against 170, and which is, of course, is really above the 50-day moving average, that's how you could reverse this thing. So that's how, that's something where you could get a setup, right? So I think like if you're following certain traders and whatever, and you're looking at them and they're being more rigid in what they're doing in their belief systems, and they have all this strong conviction, even though you're losing money, you got to question that. I'm looking at it, I'm saying, hey, I'm questioning these kind of suck, but yet I just bought one of them, Tesla. And why did I buy it? Well, because the chart said to buy it. So you have to be flexible, you have to be practical in these things. So you have to kind of keep that in mind if you're listening to. So that's really the big picture of what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say, if you're listening to people that are always like pushing this narrative or that narrative, and they're not flexible, they're going to cause you to lose money, and it's really a dangerous thing to do. So this is another sort of similar, like the W that sort of fell apart. And Neo is another big Kevin stock, which I'm sure like a lot of these companies are I'm pretty sure they're gonna be players, and so in the long term, to have money in them is probably maybe a good thing, but you can't just keep in mind, this thing is $66. We're in 34. I mean, that's 50% loss here. I mean, this is not a crash. This is nothing, but you're talking about a stock that lost 50%. And now if you're long on this thing, you're hoping to get back. But this is not really a great setup. This is sort of a descending triangle. It may be a reversal. Depending where you draw this upper line, you can see here that, hey, it's above that line. Is it going to break out? Well, it could. But where are the resistance? So resistance at 42-ish, and then resistance here at 46-ish. So, it's got a lot of resistance to break out. But if this thing was to build up over time, it could be like really set up, and if it would flatten out the moving average, the whole deal. I mean, it all has potential. So I definitely watch this. I like criticize stuff, and I'm like kind of skeptical, but I'll watch it. I'll always look at it, and I'm always willing to throw down a little bit of speculation if the chart says do it, because you will not. I think that generally Peloton's just getting beat up. That's just ugly. That's just not, I mean, it's ugly, and there's no opportunity. It's like, look here, let's just take a second on this chart, this Peloton. Here you go, you got like your uptrend. You had a good uptrend before at some point on a longer chart. We'll get to that, but and now you're in some kind of a descending triangle. You're at lower highs. You are found support. I mean, the positive thing is like, look, it hasn't broken much of 100 yet. It's right in there. It's come down here. It's two other times now. We'll see what happens tomorrow. But it's a very difficult position because you can imagine that, like, if you were shorting it or thinking going short, there's an element of, look, if it breaks this support at 100, you would short it and it might just fall through because it's sort of like a trap door, right? But the problem is there's other people under there waiting, like, look, if it does break through, I'm going to buy it. And you have that set up. And you have so many different setups there. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of very dangerous, very highly volatile. If on the long side of it, if people were trying to support it, now's the time they have to come out. They got to come out now at 100 and got to put some buying in for tomorrow to get this thing up. Or else if it cracks through there, people that are long and are retired losing money, may have stop losses, below this area. Because, right, you get the crap kicked out of you. Once again, 165, 170 to 100. I don't know what that is. Not a 50% loss, but something like a 35, 40% loss. So yeah, those are the way that is. Maybe there is a setup. I was thinking there wasn't really a good long or short setup. I mean, the problem is, if you're going to play the short setup and break that when it breaks, if it breaks, it's a really risky play because it's already so extended on the downside. Look how, where your stochastic is and how far it's sold off. It seems like the best short plays are where it's like it's actually got buying pressure, and then the buying pressure kind of goes away at a point where there just isn't anymore, so it's kind of dangerous there. But let's see what else we have here. Visor is not high beta. Pinterest, purple, PayPal. It's not high beta. A lot of these are not high beta. I think it was like the Meet Kevin stocks. Redfin Corp. Okay, fine. So now if we're looking through a lot of these stocks, we have a similar setup. We have stocks that have like put in a decent rally today, but they're right at the support. They're right. Look at this thing. This is right at the support. And so the point is, and once again, you be fluffy with it. It was down below this line, whatever. But the point is, it was selling off hard, found support again, found support today. It's kind of interesting. It's like the powers that be are like, look, we got to hold these up. You just wonder. It's probably not the powers that be, but it's like whoever owns these are like, we got to defend them now. Because remember, they're defending this weird line here. This big dotted orange line is the 200 day. That starts breaking below that. Some of the bigger money might be like, I got to get out of this thing, man. So. And then looking at this other stuff, I think let's try to close. Let's see, Tesla. So here's Tesla. So once again, I had bought a little Tesla here, not financial advice, but the point is, I have criticized these W's, whatever. But this guy ended up being the strongest guy. I put a play in, may lose some money, may not, but at least technically. Better place to be wrong, above the moving average. Now the 50 moving average, but it's still not a great place. The 50 is declining, but yet the 21's moving up. We're just kind of, what is Tattoo Chef? This is the one Kevin was talking about the other day. And this thing is this, I don't know. It's almost like, I don't know. It's kind of funny. It's like, is this a channel? Oh, it's a channel. Maybe it is. I don't know. I think what happens with these. If you're trading, you gotta come up with a strategy and you gotta work it out. And it's quite honest. Look at this now. Upwork. I'm not sure Upwork. I think they're probably crap, but. So that's just me saying I'm probably crap. But hey, I just go to this chart and look at it, and I'm starting to say, well, what's going on here? Well, let's look at this chart. So this is something I'm not aware of. I don't know. I don't have any position in this, but look at this interesting stuff at 50. We have this kind of top, and it's this kind of top. It's not a top. Look, it's you have this consolidation here. Now the 50, because it had a strong up run, so the 50 was moving and it's flattening out. But you kind of have now, look, I can draw these lines like this and that and any which way, but you could also just say, hey, look, it's kind of like, it's really kind of like, you kind of have some support in this range here. Right, you found support here. This one kind of really kicked up, and now you're coming down. We had a day where it was up a little bit. Now it's kind of interesting. So you're consolidation. So we look at the big patterns, kind of just thinking about them. We don't overanalyze it. It's like, hey, I just see consolidation here. I see two areas around 50 where it couldn't get above, and then I see two areas about 40 where it couldn't get below. So we're just being flexible. We're not like, what pattern is this? I don't know. What pattern has a head over here with this kind of tweaked thing here and then double right shoulders and try to make up a left shoulder or something? No, screw that. Just recognize that you have some consolidation. So now for the downside, if it breaks that thing and the longer it stays in there, if it breaks that, then you'd be like, okay, well, it's liable to, move if it breaks that. Now, the other way is like, well, look, if it's able to break above 50, you have potential, and that's the word that we use here, potential. Like, hey, if it does break above 50, now if it breaks above 50, you could have a move here, but you do have to acknowledge that you had this resistance up here at around 60. So like right up in there, it couldn't get much above 61, 62. But that's kind of interesting. So that's something like just looking at the chart. Then you'd have to go kind of just do a little research, IBD, something like that, figure out what the earnings are, the whole deal. But there could be something there, So that's kind of how I look at things. Try not to be overly, dogmatic, and I guess that's the real problem. Even here on Win, which wouldn't be a fan of, but look at this, outside bullish engulfing. It's probably going to run a couple days, only a couple days. And then XPEV I talked about, this kind of W that didn't happen, but today it's trying to put something in. So you have a whole bunch of these EV space stocks that look, they didn't really do well, but if they can, they have to string together, but if they do string together a bunch of days here, they could pull in above their 50s, pull above, that could be something. So, now, going back to the big picture, I buy stuff that I criticize. I do it based on the charts. I kind of just try to let the charts tell me what to do. They just kind of put a, sort of a parameter on it, like, is there a setup or not? And so if you're being too dogmatic, if you're like, well, and let me say this. So if you're being too dogmatic, it's going to hurt. It's going to be painful. If you're doing Tesla from a dogmatic, like a Kevin type of point of view, it's like, fine, I get it. But if you're, running numbers out to 2025, you're doing analysis of that stuff, then what the hell are you doing? Like looking at a 1 minute bar chart during the day. I mean, you're just setting yourself up for failure. So the psychology of money says you right out of the gate, you're doing the wrong thing. If it's a long-term play, it's a long-term play, and you're going to have to, it doesn't mean you don't look at the chart, but I mean, I would look at, if you're doing numbers at 2020, I'd look at the weekly chart, and then you wouldn't worry, you wouldn't buy or sell anything here. You'd be like, okay, look, I put my position, that position is in, uptrend is still in place on the weekly chart. Yeah, sure, pull down significantly, but it's still in the uptrend. So I don't know. So I'm not playing that game. I'm playing a different game. And so I decided I'm taking a little bit of the money, trying to find trades that I can make. And those trades are short-term swing type trades. So that's why I just have to listen to the charts. And let's try not to make excuses. So that's it for this one. Bye.